Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and I know you are all here for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And with me this evening, I've got a fantastic guest, brand new, never been on the show before, and we're going to talk some people who show up regularly in chat, their favorite topic, GRC. We're also going to be talking personnel, diversity, a bunch of other things. You know this show. We go on rants and raves and just have a good time. So sit back, relax, and I promise if you hang out, we'll be back in just a second. Hey, we're back. With me this evening, I have Chris Honda. Chris, who I completely forget who referred you, but we ended up connecting. It might have even been Will or Mike or Ryan. I don't know. There's been a few people that have been on the show that always tag others. So,
I'm thinking back. I think it had to have been Will. Will's the guy. He just knows all the podcasters.
Probably. But how you doing this evening, Chris?
Doing all right. It's been a week. We're right in the middle of our audit engagement right now, so I'm doing everything SOC 2, ISO, and I'm feeling like an auditor, even though I'm not. Man, it's a weird feeling.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. So I guess from there, the first question I ask everybody, and I don't think it'll ever change, especially for those that are brand new to the show, what got you into cybersecurity?
Ooh, it was. I think there's kind of two parts to that, and they're both kind of an accident. The day my daughter was born was when they started announcing the Equifax breach. Like, wow, that kind of sucks. And I was just starting a brand new job in finance, right? So it was tangentially related, but everyone's talking about, oh, like if we had more cybersecurity, this wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, because we've seen how that works out, right? Now that I'm on the other side. But so that was kind of the first point of interest. I dabbled, I studied, I ended up doing a master's program, which was, I think, both great and dumb at the same time. And then I actually got my start. The next company I worked at was my current company, Wistic. I started as a developer, but I said, hey, I'd love to get into security. I want to try. I want to just kind of figure out this whole tech game because I've done everything else. And I mean, my background is really weird. Like I've done education. I've done sales. I was a band teacher for a little bit. So, I mean, saying I want to be in tech was a really weird thing. So, but I said, hey, I'd love to do the security thing. I've been studying. I'd like to try it. And about 6 months into my 10 years as an engineer, my CTO and boss at the time, he said, hey, so we need someone to do SOC 2. Do you know what SOC 2 is? No? Okay. You willing to figure it out? Great. And so that led to, well, we don't have a security program. Go set up a security program. Well, now we have SOC 2 and a security program. Go do ISO now. And it's just kind of had to fake my way through it. And here I am, I guess, doing this kind of stuff now.
Snowball effect. Kind of
Yep.
Shit rolls downhill and you end up going, you know what, figure it out on fly.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like the sink or swim effect happens pretty regularly. Even now, man, it's like on a given week, it's like got to figure something out, something new, or else I'm not going to make it. So I feel like that's natural, though. I think a lot of people talk about that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the sad part is I think companies forget that, right? So all this stuff with GRC, with everything that's come out, all the changing regulations and compliance and just everything that goes around, you know, it doesn't even touch the fact that the technology, the software, that everything is also changing continuously. And so when a company is like, hey, for this purpose in this regulation, I want to go from this software that doesn't cover all of it to this one that does. And now they're expecting you to be able to like just go with it and run with it and deploy it and do everything. And then they'll go to like a managed service, and some of these managed services are like, oh yeah, we do, you know, EDR, SIM, firewalls, everything else. And at the same time, it's like it's still only specific vendors.
Yep.
But what I found happens is you get MSSPs that are like startups, and they're like, we'll say yes to everything just so we can get clients. And these companies aren't like sitting there going, they don't have the grace to sit there and be like, well, do you have to figure this out? Like, you get paid to figure it out. I'm not hiring someone to figure it out. Right. So it's one of those things. So you're trying to like figure it out on the fly, and you're like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, that's the hardest thing. And even at my company, man, like we figured it out and we tried to take it what I mean, right, the right way. When I say right in quotes, right, it's not doing compliance and risk and all that stuff for the sake of saying, oh yeah, we do SOC too, right? Like, what's the spirit behind it? And I think that's something that is missing. And I hear it's exactly like you say. Oh well, the company says we need to do this. Our team's really small and slammed already. Like, let's just get it done so that we can go get the sales, right? And I see the merit and the virtue behind a lot of that. It's just not good to stay there because eventually, like you said, it catches up. There's always something new, and all of a sudden, your tech stack that you're using, or your search stack that you're using for your compliance scheme, it just doesn't work anymore. And it has big holes and gaps because this stuff moves fast. So we have to move fast too. We have to embrace like right. There's that reputation that GRC isn't technical, and that's just not okay anymore. Not like, oh well, like everyone has to be a developer, but you can't just be like, oh well, the audit book says, right, the standard says. You have to understand the technology and you have to be willing to understand it well enough that you're not going to go and suggest something that's going to make things worse, because that
And I,
happens.
and I and I also think they need to understand the cost behind some of this stuff,
Oh, hands down.
because sometimes, and now I'm not a GRC person. I don't understand the regulatory and compliance behind things, and I'll never claim to. Like, I could research it, I could read, and I can understand it, but it's been a long time since I looked at like ISO 2700 or NIST or CMMC or any of the frameworks and regulations that are out there. But if someone said, "Hey, we need to abide by this one," I can go read it and understand. But like some of this stuff is like, "Hey, you need to maintain logging for 5 years."
Mhm.
One, I have never heard that. Like, that is the longest I've ever heard someone say, "I need to maintain logs."
Mhm.
And to hear that, and then it's like, okay, someone give me a reason, and then tell me. Like, then the company at that point has to figure out where they're going to store them, because let's be fair, after like 6 months,
Mhm.
those logs are pointless anyways.
Yep.
Because unless you were breached 5 years ago and you're just realizing it 5 years later, that's a bigger problem. And you're probably going to go under anyways. It doesn't even matter at that point. They've got everything. Like, your company's just, it doesn't matter what you do.
I think on the note, honestly, like if you've been breached for 5 years and you hadn't noticed at that point, like how are you even still open?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so I would venture a guess that a lot of that just has to do with if people want their data deleted, or if you're keeping PII or HIPAA or high trust. And again, I don't know what's in these regulations as far as retention goes, but I have heard like where some people say you need to keep it like 5 to 7 years. The point of most retention requirements are for legal investigations. Again, I understand the legal side, but
Mhm.
even then, I don't want my SIM to be able to access that. Your SIM should not have access to that, because it should be in cold storage somewhere where you give an investigator and say, "Hey, here, go look at this."
Yep.
Like, it should not be, "Hey, let's pull back this table and search." No, no, give it to an investigator. Let them go have fun. See you later.
Yeah, and that's where I'm still trying to figure out what people mean by like what the opposite hand of this is when they talk about something being risk based, right? Because it is exactly what you're saying. Is I think why would you do that, right? What is the risk in not complying with that other than you said you would, or there's some obscure law that says right, and I can't think of one law or regulation like maybe right like maybe something CMMC FedRAMP high. I'm not too familiar with the federal space, but that's probably where it would be, right? If you've been breached that long and you haven't found out, there's many more fundamental problems that need to be fixed other than your log retention. Even then, stick it in cold storage, right? And then I'll say, even then, at that point, why it's cheaper, but it's still not free. You're talking
Yeah,
about the cost, right? And that's something that I feel like we skip over a lot in GRC, but you see it a lot on the security side, on the engineering side, the technology side, is everything has a cost. Even if it's just a
that's
trade-off in time and effort.
that's
Is
the
it
space
worth
I
that?
live in, man. And so like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I look at it, I'm like, and I've had to adapt to that, right? What's the cost to do this? So, for instance, let's say I want to stand up a multi-tenant SIM, but I don't have a client yet. I just want to be ready for when the first client comes in.
Mhm.
That's not free. There's a
Nope.
cost to it. So, do you eat the cost? Do you get enough, just enough to where when you get your first client, they're going to offset the cost? But then, are you upcharging them? Right? Are you making it more expensive just to pay for what you bought in advance?
Mhm.
Like, there's so much that goes into it, and I think as engineers, as GRC, as anybody in security, as much as I despise it, cost is something you have to consider,
Yep.
because without it, you become the party of no. Everything's no.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand that there's going to be risk. Is the risk worth the cost? Is what comes into play.
Ooh, and that's where there's been a lot more chatter in the GRC world, and I think and I feel it's for the better. Of course, it's still chatter. That's the thing. It's still discussion, which I think is probably more optimal, anyways. And it's getting away from GRC, from security being the owners of all risk, right? Of course, the things that we own, we should own that risk. And I feel like historically that's not been the case, right? Like if there's ever a risk decision to be made, it goes to the CRO, which usually ends up owning GRC. Legal, right? Just it differs from org to org, but like I think that's where the shift is starting to happen, and I think it's good. And there's an onus on us as the security, as the GRC professionals, to be more fluent in business, to be more fluent in the areas of technology that we support, right? Like,
Yeah.
so just because you're GRC doesn't mean you can't, doesn't mean you don't need to know about servers. You don't need to understand about infrastructure, about programming, about how tech works, because you can't, right? What's that thing that we say? We always say you can't secure what you don't understand, right? You can't comply with, or you can't comply with regulation. You can't help understand and prevent risk if you don't understand what's risky about it. So
Right.
it's that there's a big shift coming from, hey, let's take it on ourselves as security and risk professionals, compliance professionals. Let's understand what the business is doing and how it's doing it, so that we can better say, yeah, you know what, there is some risk here, but you know what, the risk of us not getting benefit by taking advantage of this is going to be way worse than if we, kind of hide in the corner and just wait for something else to happen, because it never does, right? You don't win by accident. And I think that's where, if we're really going to think of ourselves as business enablers, right? Because that's kind of been the tag, moving away from the business of no, the team of no, to saying, hey, we're going to help things run really good and make things better. That's on us. Then we have to understand what makes things work, what makes them work better, and go help that happen, because it's not going to happen by accident otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, and when I consider all sides of it, I get frustrated, because when you look at like your CISO ends up signing off and accepting the risk of the entire organization. But a lot of times they get handcuffed by the CFO, the CRO, the CEO, the CIO, all these people, but they're not going to put their names on it. And they're not going to be the ones to accept that risk. The CISO signs it, which is why I've actually advised CISOs in previous conversations I had with them that had nothing to do with my job, just me and them talking. And it was, if you were going to accept risk, you better have the CEO and anybody above you accept it. Whoever is telling you, no, you can't do this, you have them accept that risk, because it is their choice.
Yep.
And they're like, well, I'm like, no, well, if they're going to put you on the chopping block and say, hey, if things go sideways, it's your fault, that it's not a company I want to work for. I do not want to work for a company that's going to handcuff me, but is not willing to sign off on the fact that they handcuffed me.
Yep.
Like, it's just not going to happen. But too many are like, they want to be in that position of like, oh yeah, I have CISO after my name, so I'm powerful. Dude, I don't want that power if it means I'm the first one to get fired, because there's only two types of companies out there: those that have been breached and those that don't know it yet.
Yep.
It's gonna. I don't care how, unless your computer is unplugged, turned off, 8 feet underground in a lead and concrete lined bunker and never gets plugged back in.
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible to be 100% secure.
Yep.
Somebody's going to click a button. Somebody's going to do something. Yeah, something is going to happen. There is going to be a flaw in the infrastructure that allows someone to get in. It's
Yep.
going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's the nature of the game. It really is. And I love what you're saying about right. Don't accept the, if no one else is willing to accept the risk, why should you? I
Yeah.
think there might be one caveat, right? And I think that's if it's your area of risk anyways, and it's your call to make, meaning I'm making this decision and I can influence it. And I think that's one of the key differentiators, right? It's like, if it's got something to do with financial investments, no, like that's not your call to make, right? That's the CFO. Or something with, hey, we should be adding this new technology. No, that's the CTO, right?
Yep.
If you're going to make a call, I support you. I think it's just maybe put a different way, man. If it's not something that you could do yourself to be sure that it's going to happen, I wouldn't accept a risk, because at that point it's not a risk, it's a gamble, because you can't control it. You
Yeah.
probably can't even influence it most of the time, and that's a scary place to be.
Well, and my thing with accepting risk in that regard is, let's say MFA for an example, right? Especially when it was first coming out, and companies didn't want to go to MFA, especially like your CEO and your CIOs and stuff, like, oh, it's going to make things more tedious for the user. They're not going to want to do it. It takes more time, which is going to cost us money, and da 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 da. But it's an added defensive layer that makes it harder for somebody to get in. And at that time, there weren't many workarounds for MFA. Let's be fair. When it first came out, the workarounds, it took them probably 6 months to a year for people to start bypassing it. I mean, they do now. There's ways.
Yep.
It's not, impenetrable, but it's another layer of difficulty. But back then, as a CISO, as a CISO, I wouldn't sign off on it if my CEO said, no, we're not going to do this, or if somebody said, we're not going to do this because it makes my day take an extra 30 seconds or a minute. No. Then I'm going to go to the CEO and be like, fine, you accept this risk of something that is in regulation that says, hey, we have to do our due diligence and do the utmost to protect user data and to protect all this information. And you decided as an executive that you didn't want to do that. You take that, because I'm telling you to do it.
Yep.
You're telling me no. Here you go. Have fun. You sign it.
It's funny how,
and then when I get fired because something happens, cool, fire me, but I got paperwork right here that says it wasn't my decision.
yep. Funny how the prerogative changes when it's in writing, right?
Yep. Because at that point, then they're going to be like, well, okay, what's it going to cost? Nothing. It's baked into every operating system now, every cloud environment, everything you do, just turn it on. I mean, unless you're using Okta, then okay. If you're going through some type of, identity management software, then you're gonna eat some money there.
Yep.
But if you already have E3 licensing, and let's say now, right, we're gonna move it up a little bit. You have E3 licensing through Azure, and you're running Entra ID. That shit is on by default. Yep. Like you have to say, oh yeah, these people are not allowed to, or don't have to use MFA. Everybody else does. I kid you not, every executive in that organization would have MFA enabled, and it would be only a hardware token.
Yep.
All you're allowed to use. Yubico, Google Titan Key, something.
Something. And that's, I don't know, man. And that's part of, right? Like when we were talking beforehand, like we're talking about human nature, and that's the hardest thing that we're fighting. It's like, of course, yeah, there's the criminals, there's the bad guys out there that are trying to take advantage, which is kind of sucks. But also, there is an element of job security for us, and that I just wish it was for something else, not trying to keep people from hurting other people for money,
or people from just again, because security and IT are technically an expense. And Alyssa Miller and I had a conversation years ago on how a better way to word that, because it's not necessarily an expense. There's a way it becomes an investment in your future, like a different way of explaining it. But even then, training becomes a pain to get paid for. Conferences become a pain to get paid for. Travel, all this stuff. So it ends up coming out of your pocket, putting in reimbursement, hoping you can get reimbursed. Or maybe you don't even have the money to pay for it up front because your salary isn't what it should be. Because let's be fair, in IT and cybersecurity, our salaries are like roller coasters. You leave one company, go to another for like 20 grand more. They give you a promotion, only give you 5 grand more. And you're like, oh no, I'm going to move. And now your salary is going to get cut 30 grand just to get another job. Like the salaries are roller coasters right now. So it comes down to what's it worth? Like how can we make it to where we can't, like, the attacker doesn't care. They don't need certifications. They don't need degrees. They don't need any of this stuff. They just need to be able to get in, and they only need to get in once. Us as GRC, blue teamers, purple team, whatever, everybody that is on the defensive side of things, you need to stop them and or be able to quickly, and I mean expeditiously, react every single time.
Yep.
But we're the ones that need certifications. We're the ones that need degrees. We're the ones that need 15 years of experience to be a junior level analyst. Like, come on. Like, and they wonder why for some people, I've got too much I don't want to go to jail for, so I can't. But they wonder why for some people, that other side of the fence looks very, very pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to get through one company.
Yep. I think I agree. I think on the flip side, though, you only need to get in once, right? You only need to be in once, but that you need to get away every single time because what's that phrase called? Statute of limitations? I'm not sure if there is one for some of those.
I mean, depending on what it is, unless you bring down a hospital, at which point you got a lot of risk you're going with there. I mean, for a lot of it, yeah, if you didn't steal any money, let's just say, I say didn't steal. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on extortion, but it's probably like 3 to 5 years. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately, if they don't find you within the first 6 months to a year, no one's going to even try at that point.
You'd have to essentially do the same thing, right? Leave the same digital thumbprint. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat, right? I see the up and down case. I know you warned me, but you didn't warn me enough. There's a lot of that. And that's where it's tough. And that's where I think we kind of play both sides of the fence. Not with the organizations and with the criminals, but where we play the same game with like trying to get the job and then trying to do the job. Yeah. I think it comes back to trust, which is a very human thing, right? And right now it's really messed up, right? Like you said, like putting salaries aside, just trying to get into the freaking industry, trying to get your second job, trying to get in from IC to management, right? I feel, and I know it's overly reductive, but I mean, fried brain from audit week. It's what my gut says. It all comes back to how do I convince someone that I'm trustworthy enough and skilled enough to do what needs to be done, and that I'm going to do so in a way where I don't feel like a burden and I'm only costing money and time and effort when it could be to the next sexy feature or to the next marketing press release, right? Like it is a struggle.
Well, yeah. On that note, I think we did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves, to be fair. And there are people that have done it to themselves, not the people looking to it necessarily, but when you're looking at some of your executives and stuff that start doing the hiring, it's let's bring in our friend that knows nothing about IT, nothing about cybersecurity, but they're going to be a CISO because, I'm buddy with him. So then he doesn't know what the hell, or she don't know what the hell they're doing when they go to hire their directors or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it just becomes a snowball effect. And they're like, oh, this site says that you need these certifications to be able to do the job. And that's how you end up with job, recs out there that are saying you need a CISP for a junior level role. That's what causes that. Is that it was a snowball effect from the CISO being somebody's best friend that had nothing to do with the industry all the way down, because then they don't know who they're hiring, and then that person doesn't know who they're hiring, and you get this, and nonetheless, and you end up with a bunch of gatekeepers that don't know their ass from a hole in the wall. But we haven't done ourselves any favors either, because we kept raising that salary level without ever realizing that there is an economic standpoint to this. Mm-hmm. And so now you have boot camps, you have certification industry, you have all this stuff that says, hey, if you get this certification, you're going to make 150 grand a year. Mm-hmm. You've never touched an enterprise system, and you're expecting out of a boot camp to make $120,000 a year.
Yep.
No. Just
That's
no.
A little unreasonable.
but it gets ingrained in them. But we did it. Let's be fair. In this industry, as I was coming up, I seen that and I was like, yeah, bet. Like, that makes sense. It wasn't until I got in at $62,000 a year and worked my way up the chain that I realized why I was that shit crazy.
Yep.
But I had to give myself that concession of I just need my foot in the door. Yep. And too many people are still saying, no, I need to make X in order to take this job. Meanwhile, X is about 30 grand above their budget. Yep. No, they're not going to pay you. So good luck.
Yep. Oh, if you're asking for, I've seen that work out, but it's not because they convinced them that they were good at doing their job. It's I can do that job, everything you asked for, really well, and I can do this whole other thing that you didn't even know was a problem, and successfully convince them it's a problem. It happens, right? But you best be worth the money. And it's like you said, like, and I'll tell you, I was one of those guys. Like, that's part of why I went to go do my graduate program. Like, my undergrad is in Korean, like Korean language, nothing to do with tech. To be fair, like, I worked in big enterprise situations, so like I understood regulation, how orgs work, how business worked from a perspective. So I mean, it was a little easier to, I guess, maybe not easier, but it was more straightforward to say, hey, I get it. I just need practice doing it. But it's exactly like you said. I didn't come in at 120 grand. I think I started at I can't remember, like 65, 70 as an engineer, and not a good one, if I may say. Like, I'm just not a developer. I'm not an engineer. But it's like you said, you have to be willing to do the stuff that needs to be done for the business while also delivering value in the way that you want to. And all of a sudden, you're good at your job. You've shown that you can do the job that you want, and then you can either find a way to make them mix, or you can do both of them. It's a bit wild.
And that's the thing is, Misha, that's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I'm sick of seeing entry-level IT jobs to try and get foot in the door saying you need 5 years of experience, blah, 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 and we're only going to pay you $20 an hour.
Yep.
Like, that's the problem. The level of experience isn't matching the salary expectation.
Mm-hmm.
When you're asking for experience but paying the bare minimum, no.
That's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're asking for experience, you better be paying, an added 10, 20 grand a year onto that at minimum.
Yep.
And it's not happening. Or they'll say no experience, or they'll say the inverse of that is, I don't care if you have experience, but have a CISP.
Mm-hmm.
And you're only going to make $30 an hour or 80 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
One, it takes 5 to 10 years just to have a legit CISP. Before that, it's an associate's. Okay. No, I'm not working for you for 80 grand a year with a CISP. It's not happening. Mm-hmm. That's a management cert. It's a business cert.
And at that point, you've already proved, right, because it takes experience to get the job, that you can do it. At that point, it's someone's just trying to get you for cheap, is what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's tough, right? Is finding, okay, what service, what value can I provide at a rate, at the salary, at the compensation level that this is worth. And it's like you said, man, multiple times, right? It's just not happening the way that it should right now. I get that the economy blows right now, putting it politely, right? The job market is terrible. At a certain point, though, if you want something done right, you have to pay for it to be done right. Otherwise, it's going to be done wrong. You're going to have to pay someone even more to fix it. Pay the right amount for the right person, get the job done, get it done right. And there's plenty of jobs to go around, man. It's there. The work needs to be done. You just got to be willing to invest in it, right? Like you were saying that you're talking with Alyssa, it's all an investment, right? You can't just think about the people that bring the money in, because what happens if there's no one to build it, no one to market it, no one to support it, right? It's all those things. It all works together. And if management is willing to see it that way, we play together really nicely, because we're all on the same team, right? If we can shake hands, get the work done, we'll win together.
Oh yeah, and that's really the biggest thing. But I think that's where, like, people come into play is, unfortunately, this is an industry, and Misha knows this very well. Me and her have had several discussions about it, where you have to be. Most people in the industry are more introverted, I would say. Mm-hmm. Not all. I'd say most, but not all. I'm a prime example of not all. However, in order to really be successful, you have to get out of that social anxiety, that I don't want to talk to anybody, just let me, drink my coffee and sit behind a keyboard mindset. Because if you can't sell yourself, mm-hmm. you're not going to get hired.
Yep. Ooh, you know what? You touched on something, and I'm glad that we're talking about the people bit, because I'll tell you, I'm historically a bit of an introvert. I can talk. Normally but all right, that's the difference between an extrovert and introvert. Not that you can't talk, just one tends to elevate and energize, and the other doesn't. I can talk, then it drains me.
Yeah.
But it's
There's a
exactly
social battery.
exactly, yeah, the social battery, right? And that's something I've had to find a way to adapt, and it's kind of weird. Like I think you can kind of shift between the two if you need to, or you can train yourself to do so because right, like talking in front of folks like this, I know that it's just you and me talking, but I can feel the eyes. If you do it, it's just a skill, right? Talking to people in front of people is a skill. Presenting at a conference is a skill. Talking to management and presenting ideas and proposals is a skill. So is going to get a job, right? And that's where it is demoralizing. Like I'm not going to say, oh, you just go and practice a little bit and you get a job. It's hard. I will say though that the more you do that, the more comfortable you get, and then that's where you get to say, "Look, I know you're asking for this. I can provide this and a little more, and I'm really good at it. And this is how I've done it before. I can prove it. I can back it up with experience." You have to
Oh,
be
for
able to,
sure.
because we're not in a basement job anymore, right? They don't stick IT in the basements with the servers and the mainframes anymore. We work with.
Hold up. I am in my basement right now, I'll have you know.
See, maybe it's just me. I don't have a basement. I'm jealous. If I had a basement, I'd be there all day.
But Misha makes a valid point, and I joke with her. I told her Chat GPT. She said, "What about when you're not even getting to the selling yourself point? You're still in the accept my resume and ask for an interview point."
Yeah.
She's not wrong because even when you're willing to take a pay cut, being able to put the right phrasing in that resume is key. And
Mhm.
Misha, this is where ChatGPT is not cheating. ChatGPT can help you phrase things the correct way. I am not saying lie. I am not saying admit to being able to do something you can't do or saying you've done something you've never done. I'm saying take, let's say, your resume that you currently have, and then there's a way to do it. I haven't done it, but there's a way to do it. You can take a job description in your current resume, and it will help you rephrase things so that it matches what they're looking for. You're not lying. You're just putting in the right keywords and the right phrasing that they're looking for. And we do this for people in the military all the time coming out. They were leaders. They were, even if it was infantry, they've led, they've been responsible for billions of dollars. They've done all these other things, but they don't know how kill people and blow shit up is not something you want to put on a resume when you're going to protect people. Like it's just, or when you're going to work a corporate job. That is just not something they look for.
Even if it's
So you
true.
have to be able to word it correctly. And I think right now, Chat GPT, I've been told time and time again, will help you rephrase what you're capable of into what they're looking for without lying.
And Misha, also what I would say to that is, and I mean, Derek is a prime example of it, is don't be afraid to ask for help too, right? Ask people. We're grumpy, right? We sometimes, even if we just look grumpy, right? We look like grumpy, surly folks, but I've yet to meet. Actually, no, it's not true. I was gonna say I've yet to meet someone that isn't willing to help. That isn't true. You see it, but if you just ask for help from folks that are here, just feel out to the people that you know and say, hey, like, would someone be willing to give me some pointers on my resume? It's asking. There's a difference between asking and demanding, to be fair. But if you're willing to ask for help and take feedback, most people, like 98% of the people that you talk to in the industry, are going to be willing to help to one extent or another. Even it's like, hey, you know what? I got a buddy that does this one thing that would be more than happy to talk to you about a thing. We love helping people, right? I don't think we'd be doing this job if we weren't if we didn't have whatever that gene in us that's like, you know what, I want to go make the world a better place. I want to make it safer. I want to go protect things, right? There's something in us like that takes, which attracts people like you that want to do stuff like this, but then also folks like Derek is like, you know what? Let's make the world a better place. Let's share some of that knowledge, which is why you're doing the show. I bet is one of the prime drivers.
As legitimately it. And so, I think that's so on that note, that also comes down to the people that we talk to, right? The people we interact with. Let's talk about the people in this industry. Let's talk about where things are going and where they're driving towards. You see, I've advised people breaking into cyber to try to get into one of two roles: security analysts or GRC.
Yep.
Both of them fantastic roles to get into. One's more technical, one allows you to understand business and regulation more than, say, the technical side. From an analyst side, you're kind of like, meh, I just care about the logs coming in and being able to do research on that end, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's part one. Let's go back to selling yourself. When we look at the people that are trying to break into the industry, conferences and social anxiety and all of this stuff have made people afraid to reach out and be like, hey, can I come talk? Can I go do this? Before I started this show, I refused to put in any CFPs or RFPs, depending on what the organization wants to call it. I would not do it. Actually, beyond helping people, that was the prime reason I started this show, is I wanted to give people a place to talk where they didn't have to be like, hey, I'm going to do this talk on this topic. Are you going to accept it? Like, do you want to talk about this? Is this allowed at your conference? No. I wanted to give people a place that they can just come talk and have a conversation over a beer, because that's how I find like I connect with people best. That's just me. And so that's why I did it. And I've loved doing it, and I will continue to do it. However, I've also realized I don't like talking technical at conferences. That's why my YouTube channel doesn't have any technical content beyond what I created previously. I prefer mental health and motivation. And so now I can finally starting when I go to, I did it at B-Side St. Pete a few years ago at their inaugural year. I'm doing it at B-Sides NOLA. I'm talking mental health and resilience. And I realized I don't have to talk technical. There's people way smarter than me to talk the technical side. This is why I'm in management. I hire the smart people that know shit better than me. I can't keep up with it anymore. I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough to probably break shit a lot of the time. But anymore, I'm going to hire the person that can not only break it, fix it, but find the vulnerabilities, figure out how it works, do all this other stuff. I know how to motivate people. I know what's important when it comes to mental health. I know the fact that this industry will burn you out, tear you down, spit you out, and not give a damn. You have to take care of yourself. And the two worst places to be in this industry right now is trying to break in, because the job market, the requirements, the constant rejection, and let's be fair, some people don't handle rejection well, and even those that do, by the time you get rejected for the 150th time, you're thinking, what the fuck am I even doing? Why would I be here? And then on top of that, I would say you're probably still your junior levels trying to break into your mid-level, because at that point you're like, you're not good enough to be a senior, but you're no longer a junior, but you need that added salary, but like you can't find the right fit for growth. Once you get to a senior level, it's really on you. Do you want to go and stay technical, or do you want to get into management? And just know at a technical level, you're eventually going to plateau at your salary. Eventually. Some people, if they continue to do research and work a side job, they're not. But you got to be willing to put yourself out there. If you can. If you're not willing to. So hard to get a job right now.
I think you tapped on it. I mean, in good times and bad, right? It's the willingness. I've mixed something. I mean, mixed opinions, mixed feelings, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. Man, it's sometimes you just gotta grind. I'm not like and there's nothing against like the whole motivation game, because I think it's really good and it does a lot of good for people. Sometimes you have to just go work, and you have to do unreasonable work hours, right? You have to go put in, right? What is that figure, like 10,000 hours before you get master something? This is one of those fields, and I just a hypothesis, but I think this is one of those fields where people looking to get hired without direct experience or only a couple of years of direct experience have such a hard time, because there is a level of understanding of what is at stake for this person, right? This person has to be able to protect us, or at least help point us in the direction with the things that we have to do to protect us. And if we get it wrong, then we're breached over and over again, and then there is no business.
Yeah.
Well, but I think it's, to your point, it's still
But it
more.
burns on your mental health. Let's be fair. Breaking
Oh,
in,
hands down.
you look, as someone who preaches balance, who preaches finding time for your family, friends, yourself, and everything else.
Mhm.
Misha, who is in a completely different field, doing pharmacy, and I think she's a pharmacy tech, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
trying to break into another industry completely outside of what she's doing.
Mhm.
That not only takes your full-time job, but now you got to study on the back end.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you got to figure out, all right, what's more important right now? Me going out with my friends and actually having some type of fun in my life, or is it going and meditating? Is it studying more? Is it sleeping? Is it what is it? And so that small window you get when you're trying to go from one thing to the other takes so much scheduling and prioritization.
Mhm.
When do you ever truly have time for you
Mhm.
at that time? And
Yep.
I felt that for years. I
Mhm.
know that pain. So I can understand where they're coming from. I don't know yet if I have an answer other than take the weekend at the very least to shut everything off and step away.
Yep. No, I'll tell you, hands down, it was the same. It took me. Oh, no, you're asking me to do math at this point. It took me like 3 or 4 years of just same thing, exactly what you said. Like I'd have to go back and actually do the
Oh, dude,
numbers.
we used to grind,
Yeah, and
grind day in, day out.
yep.
Eh, By the time I got in, I thought I can continue to do it because I loved it, because I really did. I absolutely loved hacking. I loved breaking into computers. I loved the blue team. I loved everything.
Mhm.
And then to do it for 18 hours a day, I eventually said, I'm done.
Yep.
I
Yep.
can't do it.
Yep. And
But on that note, I do have a question here
yeah.
from AI. Thanks for the super chat. Love you, brother. If you were hiring right now, what do you look for in a resume, and what are the things that get the interview?
Whew, you're gonna hate me, but also this is a phrase that you hear in a lot of places. Is it depends. I think it depends what role I'm hiring for, right? Like we think of cybersecurity as, oh, I just got a cybersecurity job. I know it's different. I have a lot of family medical, so I like using this as a comparison when we're at the dinner table or family reunion. It's a lot like medicine, where you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor," right? You are a doctor. You can be a cybersecurity professional. Are you risk compliance? Do you specialize in SOC 2 and ISO? Are you a security engineer? Do you do IAM? Are you SIM, right? Because it's just like being a doctor. Are you a podiatrist? Are you an optometrist? Are you an ophthalmologist? Are you anesthesiologist? Are you an RN? It's the number of specialties is staggering. And this is what's tough. Usually, our roles aren't labeled as specialist roles, right? You're just going to be a security analyst, and just a little more of the stuff that's in your job description is just going to happen to be about SIM management, SIM
If
engineering.
if you're lucky.
If you're
If you're lucky.
you usually don't know until you started the job and like, oh yeah, so by the way, this is the
Or you're a business security analyst and you're like, what the hell does that mean?
uh-huh. Yep. Yep. Just don't stick me in Salesforce, please.
Right.
Yep. No, so it's what all I can say though is know what you're interested in, which is really tough because a lot of these things you can't do unless you have the freaking job, and that sucks. So that's where I mentioned before, talk to people and kind of figure out what they do and think, oh, you know what, that doesn't sound terrible, or that sounds terrible but manageable, right? That, because it is a job, right? There's only so much about a job that you can love. You can love a lot of it, but it will still be a job. Um, but in terms of getting the interview, be comfortable talking about it, right? That seems to be the recurring theme of the show. A recurring theme of this show, episode in and episode out, is you got to be comfortable talking with people. You don't have to love people. You don't have to be anyone's best friend, but you have to be able to say, I understand what you're asking for, and I know how to pitch myself. I know what I'm good at. I know how to talk about what you're asking for. And even if I'm not a pro, because right, there's just too much stuff. There's just way too much stuff to even be okay at. You have to know how to say, yes, I can talk about this extensively. I can talk about this and I know how to learn about it. I don't know diddly about this, but I do know how to go about studying it and getting dangerous at it. So those
Or look, I don't know shit about that, and I don't want to know about that, and I don't give a
my
damn about
favorite.
that.
Yep. Yep. But you have to be confident enough in yourself, because as soon as you say I don't know and you leave it at that, you're probably out of the interview process. We are problem fixers in this industry, and we're not always really good at it. But we do have to be. We're not always good at solving specific types of problems, but we do have to know how to solve them. Even if it means, hey, I'm not the guy for this, but I know who can. I know the lady down the
Exactly.
hall that is good at that. I'm more than happy to go be a partner, and we're going to go make something that might look scary, but it's going to do the job, and then we'll make it pretty later. We'll make it work, then we're going to make it good.
Yeah, for me, when I look at resumes, I'm gonna be honest. I'm starting to kind of, because maybe it's because of my push in mental health, but I look at two things. If I am looking for a specific, because the recruiters that I go through where I work, they know I am looking for a specific uh vendor usually, right? I need you to know Azure or Sumo Logic or CrowdStrike or Fortinet or whatever, right? Name a vendor. I'm looking for something specific to those. So I look for that when they bring them to me. But ultimately, beyond the technology, I am looking for that about me paragraph.
Mhm.
I am looking for what you do for you when you are not touching a damn computer, because I want to know that you take time away from work, because I don't want to have to sit there and force you to take time off,
Mhm.
because we all need it. Everybody does. I want to know that you are someone that's going to be able to walk away and tell me to basically go fuck myself when you're on PTO. If you're on PTO and I'm calling you for work, I swear you better be have the cojones to sit there and be like, homie, I'm on PTO. Can it be dealt with when I get back? If not, go call the other homie that works with you, because this ain't gonna work.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that. I appreciate that, because I never had the gall to do that for years. And I want to instill that in my employees, that when your time is your time, not mine, yours. I want to know that if you have a family, you are putting them before your work. I got you for this long. Your family, like, that's your family. That's who you're raising. That's who you're taking care of. That's who you're supposed to impress. I don't want you working 18 hours a day when your kid has birthday parties. This ain't the army, homie. I don't want you missing birthdays and holidays and things like that. It's
Mhm.
why I don't work a job where you have to be on call 24/7, because I don't want to have to call you on the weekend.
Yep.
I'll come in. If something breaks, I'll come in and fix it.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if it breaks, that means I didn't hire the right person to set it up right, or I allowed us to get into a contract that allowed a client to break it.
Mhm.
It's on me either way, not on you,
Yep.
and I'll fix it. And that's what it comes down to. I want to know that you have, right here. Gabriel said it. I want to know that you have boundaries. I want to know that you're going to tell me when I'm screwing up. I want to know that you're the type of person that prioritizes things in the right way, because I don't offer you a pension, dude. I like, this isn't the days of pensions. This is the days of 401ks that can travel with you.
Mhm.
Do I want you? I'd rather you be loyal to me because I respect you and what you bring to the table and what you're offering, than to a company, because a company will fire me in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
They don't give a damn. I'm just a number.
Yep.
But yet, if I get fired, I want to know that if I call up the people that work for me, that I have inspired them to do better and do more, that they'll be like, yeah, I got you. Where are we going? What do you need? All day. But you only get that for people that take time away from work, that you allow them to take time away from work, that want to take time away from work.
Mhm.
Because if they're not willing to do that, and all they care about the work, then they don't care about any of the people either. All they care about is the work.
That's an important.
How can you protect people if you don't care about people?
I'll tell you, man, I missed that. I did not pick up on that well for my first few years, and part of it is because work, just being a workaholic, runs in the family. I mean, I think that runs in a lot of people's families, right? And Gabriel, thanks for calling out the boundaries. I'm still working on that, man. So I mean, Derek, you're gonna have to keep me. You're gonna have to keep me accountable
Dude,
as we
call
go.
me any day. I will put your ass in line.
I have so many stories. I'm gonna have to pass this to, I mean, pretty much anyone that's ever been my boss here. Like they were really good. I was really bad my first couple of years, right? Because I want to make sure, like, this is my
Oh,
break.
you want to make an impact. You want to be the
Exactly.
go-to guy without realizing the go-to guy means you're taking everybody else's work and working 24 hours a day.
Yep. And you can do it. You can't do it forever, and you will hit so hard if you don't slow down before you hit the ground. It's every single one of my bosses has a funny story about catching me when I was on PTO working, and some of them have very very colorful words for me. Thankfully, and this is why I mean, we just need more people like you, and like the people that have been my boss and my mentors, like, and this is more for the folks watching, is make sure that you find good folks like Derek to work for, like my boss now, John, my old boss Juan, my old boss Jake. There are good folks that care about you. I understand the need to break in and get experience, cut your teeth, get your foot in the door, all those fun metaphors that no one really cares for, right? Make sure that you find someone that you can work for, and that you get attached to them as the person, as opposed to the job or the company, because people will take care of you, and eventually you'll be in a position where you can do the same for other people. And I'll tell you, if I'm ever fortunate enough to be able to lead people, that's what I want to do, because there's people that will take advantage of you. Been in those positions as well before. Thankfully, not my current company, but you'll never feel good about that. Even if you end up getting paid more, right? Like, you cut the team a little bit, or you cut the budget, you make your team's job harder, but you get a bonus because you cut budget. You'll never feel good about that. But if you,
I could never do that. Like I've actually, the people I've worked for have legitimately been fired for
Mhm.
going to war to get their people paid. Let's take an example. All right, and then we're coming to the top of the hour, so we do got to cut this a little after 8.
Yeah.
But my a boss I had previously during COVID, people were rolling back. You know, they were doing, we're doing 10% cuts across the board, the economy, this, that, the third, things are closing, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
The company I worked for at the time, and I only worked for them for 6 months because they ended up firing me because I was still friends with my old boss. Um, and I'll put that out there. I don't care. But they were like, "Oh, we're in the green. We're making money. We're in the green. We're in the green," and everybody's pay was cut. And so my boss went to them, was like, "If you're in the green, you're making money, and you know you've got people lined up to make more money. Pay my people."
Mhm.
He wasn't arguing for himself. Legitimately, it was pay my people.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Well, we can't." He goes, "Nope." And he literally got to the point. He said, "Fuck you, pay my people."
Mhm.
And that's when they not walked him out the door. We were remote, but that's when they basically said, "And you're done."
Yep.
That is someone who I loved working for, because it came down to the people.
Mhm.
It didn't matter about anything else. It was, if you're saying you are this good, then why is pay still cut?
Yep.
That is someone who cares about the people that work for him.
Mhm.
And that is the type of person that I will work for any day of the week.
Oh, absolutely. It can't be overstated, right? We do this for the people, right? We do the job, not just for, I mean, for the people we work with, for the people that we end up protecting. It's there's something that just can't be replaced. No matter how much money you make, no matter how much prestige and how many times you can be on the news and present at the most
Yeah,
prestigious places, the I don't even know how to describe the feeling, but the peace, the comfort, the joy, I guess, is probably the most pure word I can think of. The joy that you get from knowing that you looked out for people, your
yeah,
team, for your coworkers, for the people that work for you, the people you protect. You'll never feel anything like that. And yes, we should get paid. We do hard jobs. That's also something to consider. You always do right by your people. People will have your back.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that's the biggest thing, and one of the biggest things I look for in leaders, and the type of leader I try to be, right? So if I got a person, if I got a guy that's working for me, or a girl, and they're like, hey, I need a mental health day. Okay, go.
Mhm.
I don't even ask questions, especially when they're at work. Now, if you're lazy, let's be fair. I am one of those people. If you're lazy, if you ain't doing work, if you're not communicating, if you're not telling me you're going through something, if you're having issues, it's going to get to the point where you're like, I need a mental. No, no, you're not getting one of those, homie.
Mhm.
You ain't done. You haven't turned in shit in the past week. Why would I give you a mental health day now? You could have told me earlier in the week that you were struggling. The fact that you lack the ability to communicate or the will to communicate to me, that's on you. That's not on me.
Mhm.
But when you're busting your ass, you're doing all the work, you're closing tickets, you're doing everything, and then you're like, look, I'm hitting my wall. Yo, go. Just don't even. I don't even care. Just go. Go away. Sign off. But that's how I feel about all that. But
Yep.
before everybody rolls out, and normally I go a little bit longer, but it is I do got things to do tonight.
Yeah.
Um, I want you to run for as long as you need. Give your final words to anybody trying to break into the industry and or anything about GRC, whatever you want to talk about. The floor is yours, and I'm gonna let you have it. I give you like 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. Deep breath it is. I wish I had more prepared to say about GRC other than I love it. A lot of folks see it as a stepping stone into real security. You're more than welcome to feel that way. I used to take it as a point of offense, but I get it, right? Some people love the technical and you just need a way, and great way to do it. GRC is also a great place to be, especially if you're looking to make an impact with lots of people, right? Not that the technical side of security isn't, because you certainly do. When you're looking at how GRC can be done, and this is where I'm advocating it can be. It's up to you to kind of figure out how to make it work in your org. You can one of my go-to phrases, for example, is "What can I do for you?" And you can ask that to anybody, right? Sometimes they'll ask you security specific stuff. Sometimes they'll ask for interpretation of a law, or hey, what do we need to do again? Where's our SOC 2 report? One of the best things that you can do is take advantage of people's questions and figure out, okay, I don't know anything about that, but I would love to help you because I care about you as a person. What can I do? Okay, what even is this? How can I learn more about that? And you just learn more and more and more. I love learning. I mentioned before, most of my studies was my undergrad studies was in Korean. I love learning language, which is all about people. It's all about talking with people. So it's you don't have to love being around people. You don't have to be energized and feel really great after every single conversation. But I would encourage everybody to learn how to converse, learn how to talk. And as far as just looking to get into the field, just if you know you want to do it, don't quit and ask for help. Those two things are imperative. If you quit, you'll never get in, or you'll have to wait for luck, which is right. It's very luck based. But if you ask for help and you're willing to try and try and try, even when things are hard, maybe you slow down a little bit, but as long as you're moving in the same direction, in the right direction, and you have good people guiding you and supporting you, you'll make it eventually. And I'll put it out there. I mean, I haven't done that yet. I would love to have conversations with any of you. My time is short and limited. I might not be able to talk for hours every day, but if you hit me up on LinkedIn, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation, set up a call at some point, and be your cheerleader. I want to see everybody win. So give me a shout.
Definitely. One of the biggest things you said was at the end, right? We want to see everybody win.
Mhm.
Too many gatekeepers, too many people afraid to lose their jobs. Look, my job is to build more leaders. If I'm not building someone to replace me, I am failing as a leader. My job is to get you better so that because I can't move up until I have somebody else that can move up too.
Yep.
The- we got to lift each other up as we go. Chris's information, his LinkedIn is in the description on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So depending on where you're watching this, it is there. Please connect with him, and he'll help you just like I help you. Space Tacos, Misha, Gabriel, they all know how to get a hold of me. I'm on Discord. All my ways to connect with me are in the description of YouTube and everywhere else, as well as go to cyberwarriorstudios.com. I have all that. But before we sign off, I do want to say, one, Chris, it was a pleasure having you on. It was a fantastic conversation. We'll have to catch up and do this again sometime. But also, I just want to, circle back around to the mental health, the personal aspect of this when you're trying to break into the industry. Coming from someone who knows how hard it is and has hit that brick wall, who has wanted to give it all up, who has wanted to quit and find somewhere else to work. You need to, even when you're breaking in, take time for you. You have to understand that as much as you may love something, you will hit a point in time where your body and your mind just say enough is enough. And you cannot do it anymore. And you become a shell of your former self. You no longer enjoy your job. You no longer enjoy what you're learning. You no longer have time for family. And when you are with family, you're empty. There's nothing left there because you have nothing left to give. So take time for you. Take your breaks, take your PTO, take your mental health days, take whatever it is. Go out and meditate, go do something. Getting into this industry is very difficult. It is not a walk in the park. I don't care how many letters you have to after your name. I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how many years of experience you have in whatever industry. Take your breaks because it is not going to be easy and it is not for the faint of heart. This isn't like going and becoming a doctor where you apply for your residency and you might get the best school, you might get the worst school, or the best hospital, the worst hospital. This isn't like being a lawyer and you have law firms where you might know somebody and they can put your name in. 9 times out of 10, there's about 100 people, if not more, that know the same people you do, vying for the same jobs, and you have to set yourself apart.
Yep.
For me, that's knowing that you know when to say, I'm going to take a day. I need to be with me. I need to figure this out so that I can be the best version of me for you. Because if you're willing to burn yourself out for me, that means I'm going to lose you as an employee, which is not something I want. Because if I'm hiring you, it is because you bring value to the team. That value doesn't mean I should have to lose you because you decided not to take that break. Recognize when you need it. Take your time. With that being said, I love every single one of you. You're all my warriors. You're all my family. And I will be at B-Sides NOLA on May 13th. So buy your tickets. Go there. See me there. If you want to meet in person, I will be there from the 12th. I am leaving the 14th. We will grab a drink, do whatever, hang out. I will be there. And I'm also going to be at B-Sides Pittsburgh. I want to say that one's in June. So prepare for that one if you want to come there. Misha, I'd love to meet you again there. It was a blast last time we hung out. But with that being said, y'all take care. You have a good one. And next week will be my last week. And then I got to take a break for my surgery. So you have one more episode before I got to take a week off. With that being said, take care. And I'll see you in the next one.